And we're off.
Hello.
How you doing?
Yeah,
Doing great.
I wish I had started singing that song just a little. It probably got the last little bit of the melody.
It was a really good song.
Yeah, we haven't been back. I haven't been on the mic in a while. We've been on other mics.
Feels good to be back, though.
Yeah, I think this is number 5.
Yeah. And with one of our best friends.
Hello,
Exactly.
everyone.
Yeah.
Christopher Vick.
We're
Sir Christopher Vick.
Aw.
the champion, wearing a wonderful shirt, and perfect angle of it. Yeah, pop it.
Where'd you get that?
Oh, this was a gift from a friend of mine on my birthday. My friend and I went to this clothing store, and I pulled this out, and he's like, I'm getting that for you. And I was like, oh, thanks, man. So there it was.
When's what day is your birthday? Or
It
what?
was January 3rd. It was a Wednesday, and a cold day in January.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
it was.
That was
Are
really
you
cool.
are you the kind of person that is bashful about celebrating the birthday, or do you go like big, or do you like?
That's a great question. I think it's different each year. I mean, I've definitely had
Yeah.
birthday parties where like I rented out a venue and I DJ'd and had like a whole big thing. And I've also had times where it was just dinner. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
With like the super
yeah.
homies.
Nice.
So-
It does change year by year.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And this year I got a little bit of everything. It was really cool. It was actually a really great birthday. It was I was working in the daytime, so it was like kind of like making money on my birthday for the
Yeah.
first time. I was like, yeah,
Nice.
like that's what I want to be doing, you know?
Yeah.
And then I found out that I was on the cover of the Portland Mercury while at work that day. And then we got photos back from this photo shoot that we did with this magazine. And then I had dinner with like my friends at the restaurant I work at, which was absolutely fabulous. And then after that, we had a party and I DJ'd and stuff, and it was really great. My friends
Nice.
DJ'd and it was really fun. So
A little bit of
a little bit of it
everything.
all, yeah. It was an interesting
perfect.
day, that's for sure. It was a lot of like, oh my God, look at this.
What if every day was just like that? You know?
Maybe it is.
Exactly.
And what was the story about you being on the cover of the newspaper?
Oh my gosh, totally random. So basically earlier last year, about June or July, an old friend of mine reached out to me to do a photo with her because she's been doing these really amazing like caricature photographs of very interesting people, and then like putting on crazy like makeup and different things. You kind of got to see it. She's actually been published and she's been placed all around the country, actually on billboards and things.
Awesome.
Her name's Parker Day. Hi, Parker, if you hear this. But so I guess that what had happened, unbeknownst to me, is that they had used one of her photos because they were doing an article on her, and they happened to have chose the one that was me.
Awesome.
And so, and I found out on my birthday, like right in the middle of the day, and I was just so like, whoa, how random is that? You know, it was cool. It was
More
powerful.
human beings need to know who you are. So I'm
Yeah,
down.
tell
But
us
they'll
more
never
about
know who-
yourself.
thanks.
We know you really well, but
Aw,
who is
yeah.
Christopher Vick? What does Christopher Vick do?
Gosh, I
What
was
are his passions?
I was thinking about that on the way over here. I was like, how do I describe myself? Like, oh dear.
Nice. You're allowed to be cocky on this show.
Cocky.
We have you here because we think you're awesome. So
I appreciate that. My passions are music, performance art, friendships, living life, exploring knowledge, exploring life, and exploring, I don't know, the world,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Not necessarily in that order.
But it's
yeah.
good. It's at the core of adventuring, like a human should, you know, and,
Yeah.
and exploring and discovering.
People often ask me what my sign is, and I'm like, Capricorn, like that explains everything. And I'm like, I don't know. I actually don't know what that means.
Yeah, I'm terrible.
I mean, I
about
kind of
stuff,
do, but I'm like, is it because I'm a goat? Like, what are you saying?
Yeah, when
'Cause it's
Kimmy-
true. I'm a goat.
Yeah, I guess we'll get
Stubborn as
to.
hell.
But yeah, you have a good friend who studies very interesting astrology too.
Oh, most
And
definitely.
she'd be swinging the confusion even greater in my head about like what we all are about
Yeah.
sign wise.
You are a Capricorn Sagittarius rising with a moon of Leo.
Exactly.
You're like to a T.
Nice. Well, and then you also play in some bands in
I
town.
do. Yes, I do.
Nice.
My main project is called Draemings, and that's been one I've been working on with my best friend Kimmy for quite some time, and it's reaching a point where we finally decided to pursue it as a full-on band.
Nice.
And instead of just being supporting Kimmy's music, we're now like all creating together as a unit. And it's been quite a journey. I mean, we keep creating new songs and new sounds, and it's been really, really exciting. And then I'm in a few other bands. Another one is I play lead guitar for my friend Sean Gadd, formerly of Group Love, and that's been going really well as well. And then I have 2 more projects. I got a project called Weatherhouse, which is kind of like disco meets synth soundscapes meets like house music.
Yeah.
And we just kind of explore that and just like are all about like, trying out new ideas. And then the final project is called Black Flamingo, and there's some very exciting news about that. That's just about to get released that I can't quite mention.
Nice.
And hint, nudge, nudge. But yeah, so yeah, that's basically my involvement in the music scene of Los Angeles.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What instruments do you play?
My primary instrument is a guitar, although I definitely have a huge passion for keyboards as well. I love the multitality, I just give it that word, the plurality you can do with keyboards. It's like you can really explore a lot of different sounds and textures. But then I love guitar because guitar can really help express emotion. And so, yeah, definitely. But those are my two mediums.
Nice.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I think knowing you well enough too, I know that like a lot of great musicians in town, you also have like some side hustles. You're also a master of side hustles and very, very talented in a lot of other things. Thanks, too. Man. You know, like. Yeah. So how are you able to stay free and be in so many projects like that, but also live in a city like Los Angeles?
Someone asked me that the other day, and I think, because they were aware of all the different things I'm involved in, and they were like, you must be all over the board. And I'm like, honestly, like, when I look at my life, it's just like a river. I'm just flowing along it, and whatever interests kind of come along, I explore them. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of divide my attention from one thing at a time as much as possible, and whatever I'm involved in, I try to give 120%. And that allows, I think, the ability to have this appearance that I'm doing all these different things. And really, I'm just doing a few different things, differently, I guess. So
when you can get a lot done. Yeah. I mean, how do you make money? How do you stay alive? Like,
currently I wait tables. Nice. I had to switch careers later last year. Before that, I was a medical consultant and a clinical trainer for biotechnology and aesthetics. And that was a wonderful experience, but I had reached a point where I needed to transition. Mm-hmm. So I started waiting tables again, and I got a job working at a couple really fancy restaurants downtown, and I absolutely love it. Yeah, because it's interesting. On a spiritual part of it, I get to be exposed to all of these interesting groups of people in Los Angeles that are very much Angelinos or people visiting and people around the world, and it's fascinating because I'm no longer like sitting in front of people like talking about their concerns or issues that they have with their health. I'm now like, popping bottles and facilitating their memories with their family or friends.
Yeah, good times.
It's powerful, and I really love it.
Nice.
And so that's more flexible for you, and you're making more money doing that.
Yes, yeah, I am.
Yeah, waiting tables is I waited tables for a really, really long time, and it's if you pay rent in the city,
that's you have to.
Yeah, well, that's just one of the best jobs to do it. I swear, you can put in.
Yeah,
exactly. I have a friend who I think she works like 25 hours a week or something like that. She probably makes like 1,800 a week, or maybe every 2 weeks or something. But still, it's plenty of money.
Yeah.
And it's not a lot of time. It's like literally one day worth of time.
Wow, I know, it's so great.
And how often do you come home with leftovers?
One never comments on
nice.
on how savage one can
that's
be.
That's nice too, though. I mean,
I definitely
go to work
eat my fair share.
Yeah.
It's great. I love it, and especially the restaurants are so good. One's called PYT, and the other one's Orsa and Winston, and they just started doing a new brunch at Orsa and Winston, and it is phenomenal.
Nice.
So yeah. But I mean, to be honest, like I'm really just holding down that fort till my ship comes in, and I want, I'm, working on music, facilitating a more substantial income to, take over my needs and necessities and living in the city. And I'm, I feel that coming. And, there's other projects I want to do as well to kind of create that and help myself move forward.
Yeah.
But I will say table service is kind of awesome to do it in the interim,
Well, no, I mean, I have friends who wait tables, and like I said, I waited tables for a long time, and it's, if I now being out of like a steady job, I don't work a job I haven't for like 5 years, like other than like a really sporadic random pickup gigs and stuff. And then Matt and I are just doing the RV hustles now. That's where we make the majority of our rent and
which
spending.
Is awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, but
so
also
rad.
Being able to just show up to a job and pretty much, especially a restaurant like those, like, and know you're probably gonna leave with $200. Probably some nights you're gonna leave with $280. And it's like you literally work 7 hours and you're walking home with a shit ton of money
Yeah,
for that. And for the consistency to know you could do that 5 days a week if you wanted to like get ahead. You could just make a ton of money. I mean, it's I feel like if there's no end in sight, I feel like it could get a little tough.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but if you're using that straight cash to like do something or get to something, I think it's a wonderful career.
What was the name of that artist that worked at Applebee's in Times Square? Do you remember?
Cher.
No, I know. She was working with Tim and those guys from Werewolf Art. She's great, but yeah, basically we don't know. No, I'm not gonna remember her name, but she worked her ass off like during the busy seasons, during the holiday seasons and stuff like that. It was like maybe 6 months a year that she worked at this Applebee's, but she did it for a couple years in a row, just picking up like a ridiculous amount of shifts, just like
as much as she could.
Yeah. She would just grind until her fucking head wanted to fall off, and then for another 6 months she would just work, and she was really crafty. You know, she would build up these big bulks of cash, like $7-8 grand, and then she would find producers who would like usually charge $20,000 for a track, and then because she was just personable and a good business person, she would like go right to the producer and be like, "Look, I only have $5 grand, but I'm worth your time." And because she was still coming at him with like a nice chunk of money, she was talented. Yeah, so it was like she was like showing, you know, I'm real. I'm not trying to get anything for free from you, but just throw me a bone, you know. And this end, she would do it, just keep doing it. It took a couple of years, but she built up this awesome catalog, and at the same time was getting to know all these producers.
That's so rad.
Yeah, and I just feel like, it's if if you're using the money from waiting tables like that, man, that's a way to just kick life's ass.
Yeah. I started first really getting involved in projects outside of just, waiting tables and partying, because I was definitely doing that in my mid-20s, having a great time in San Francisco.
Yeah, living.
But I was able to make a little bit extra money, and I traveled the world a little bit. And then when I got not done doing that, but when I got inspired enough to come back to San Francisco, and in the words of my friends that worked at the circus, do things, create what it is that your vision is. Whatever dream you have, go for it.
Yeah, make it happen.
Because they had been talking to me a long time about hustling that, because they kind of saw this kid that just partied and waited and just whatever.
Yeah.
But I was also talking to them about their lives and how much I appreciated that they pursue what they love and they get paid for it really well.
Yeah.
And when I got back from Europe this one time, I started to throw parties, and I financed it off my table service money, and it changed my life.
Yeah.
It absolutely did. That experience totally put me on the path that I'm on today.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you want to get back into party curation and stuff like that?
Most definitely. Yeah.
So is there? Yeah. So now I'm starting to think of some things.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, is there things that you feel like Los Angeles is a really interesting city?
Yeah.
And right now it's definitely in this awesome flux, and gatekeepers are changing and guards are changing. It's like the way things used to be is not the way it is now, and it's beautiful. But so as a promoter or something, is there a reason why you're not doing it now?
Mm-hmm.
There is. Is it harder right now than ever or something? I don't know.
No, it's a personal decision.
Okay.
I've had a journey in Los Angeles where, I've been in different places spiritually and, mentally, and I've had challenging times, and I've had great times, and I moved here with the intention to start a production company. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to combine dance elements with performance art, like I was doing up in San Francisco, with certain events, but I wanted to take it to a whole different level. And I saw that Los Angeles could absolutely facilitate that.
Yeah.
From the ground up.
Totally.
From its culture to
a lot of great dancers here too.
Oh yeah. I mean, performers, there's great DJs. I mean, there's amazing venues. The venues here.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So that was why I moved here. And then I got into music, and I felt that I just fell into it. And I think that what it's become for me is I've made a decision that I feel like I'm creating music to be my platform, that I extend outwards my events.
Nice. I agree. I see that.
So in other words, I want to focus on music, but I want, when I'm not touring or whatever, to be producing these events, or or help them travel or things or whatever.
Totally.
And DJ here and there as well. But no. So until that really gets rolling, I am holding off, and I'm doing what I call reconnaissance, and exposing myself to as many different ideas as possible to help make the product that I end up delivering as as best as I possibly can have it to be.
Yeah, totally.
Because the more like sometimes I get an idea like, oh wow, like I really want to combine these particular elements. I'll see it on my Facebook feed. Like, it'll pop up. I'm like, oh, they're doing that in London. It's amazing. Like, oh, well, I got to rethink that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
It's like,
niche
okay.
niche is really wonderful. Like, really, especially now where there's a lot of stuff. The more you can define like the feeling and the message that you want to portray at these events, and you want people to walk in and be like, you know, the more you can refine that idea, I feel like
the better will be executed.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel. And
And also just not spreading yourself too thin.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's definitely easy to do.
Yeah.
There's so much different inspiring projects here.
Yeah, exactly. And I've made a promise to myself that this year is the year I'm going to start it back up again. That's what my birthday was all about. It was all about like, to me, it was because we produced that party like 3 days before my birthday. It was so last minute.
Yeah.
And when it was happening, it was kind of like reminding me that this is something that I need to bring into my life this year.
Yeah.
And so I told myself that in the next like 3 to 6 months, get it beginning, and then within a 10-month period, have that be what I'm, focusing on right alongside music primarily, So,
Awesome.
That's
Yeah,
what that's
goals are amazing, because you don't even have to. It doesn't even have to happen in that time frame, but even having that time frame will get you to where it's going to succeed faster.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's great. I think we're almost in the same place. I mean,
100%. Yeah.
This is like it's like a weird thing to talk about, but just like garnering attention, in a sense. Like you're in this opportunity with Draemings, and you guys are going to be out working a bunch, and then now you're working with Sean too, and the more and more everyone starts to know who you are, how wonderful you are, and everyone in our scene already knows who you are, but the more everyone and more Los Angeles as a whole gets to know you, I think it'll be way more fun and easier probably for you to throw shows that are just more spectacular. And like the more you got to, if you have opportunity to get to know like the dance community, like especially like USC, for instance, like some of the best modern dancers in the world right now.
That's true.
Are there, and they're right here. And they would probably love to come dance at those parties. And
I mean, I want the events to be accessible to everyone, yet the feeling of exclusivity. And it's like when you're there, you feel like it's just like a one-of-a-kind experience that you and these people that you're with get to experience, but it's not exclusive to different groups. I want to, because I mean, where that comes from is that, I worked at a circus for a number of years in San Francisco, and I had the wonderful, blessed opportunity to make a lot of friends in that community, and in the Cirque du Soleil community and things like that, and different circuses from around the world and performers from around the world, and it inspired me to like create, to want to create this like event that combines circus, like full on high end performance art, with like the best dance music of the day or the generation, whatever.
Yeah, I was almost thinking about it when you were explaining it the first time. I was almost thinking like, almost like Cirque du Soleil, but like a party.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah,
it's like Cirque du Soleil is incredible. Like, I love their business model. I love everything that they do with their company. I absolutely like it. It's so inspiring, and it's so incredible, and it's so worldly and attainable by every culture in the world. It's phenomenal. Yeah. But the one thing is that it's like it's spectacle and spectator. And that's great. That's the way it's been done forever. But I kind of want it to be more inclusive. Like the spectacle is happening around you, and not only that, you and the audience are part of that as well.
You can participate. It's like Burning Man. There's a camp that has the big rings, and I love that. You just like ride up to their camp, and that's the one thing they do. And it would be so awesome if you could like come to a party and like swing on these big rings, or like take part and like
sign a liability waiver.
Try a trapeze or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great idea. Actually, I love that.
You can have
it. Well, you just have one of those nets. You just have a big net underneath, and then people just fall in the net.
You could, and have instructors helping people
roll into a new lever. And be like,
that's true.
What's your name?
Oops, I fell.
Oh, gee, weird.
Yeah, it's great, man. And I love today too. I think it's just easier than ever to get the word out about things too. So whenever you decide to, just make sure I get an invite.
Absolutely. Do you get an invite?
Nice.
Of course, my friend. No, absolutely. So we'll see. So I guess since this is now recorded and on
it's
video, documented, all these people hearing it, we're all going to find out. But the energy's out there, and we'll see what time has in store.
Well, I know that everyone will show up in force for the party. So as a promoter or as a musician or an artist, like, is there anything, because again, things are changing, not just in our city, but in like the entire scape of music as a whole. And are there any things that like either A, you're really excited about the way things are changing, or B, that really scare the hell out of you? Like, or not scare you, but just
question.
You just don't get, or like, you're like social media. Like I have some friends who are just like, they resist it, but I think they just maybe don't get it. They're like, you know?
Yeah, it's... Wow, that is a great question, because I mean, I think everybody feels the same way. I think we all feel it differently, but we're all feeling like excitement in personal lives, and then what the fuck in the external world, and wherever that looks like to you, you know. And I think it's different for everybody, but also seems a little bit the same. And it's interesting, all the different things that are happening across the board, politically, musically, like everything, you know, business wise, and the way the world is changing and shaping with technology, and so at such a rapid level, and the accessibility we all have to information and what's going on in the world at any given time.
Yeah, and to each other.
To each other, yeah. And, you know, I noticed in my personal time, I'm like, geez, I'm spending a lot of time on this freaking little device in my hands. Like, maybe I should not be doing that, you know, so much. But, you know, I don't know. What excites me is I think that we... not our generation specifically, but a couple generations before us, and definitely ours in the sense of us applying ourselves to reality with our given cultures, that I think there's this really exciting global culture being created or awakened in a way. And it's across the board. You know, technology is the medium that's facilitating it. And, you know, people are traveling everywhere. People are living whatever the heck they want to do, you know, they're wearing whatever the heck they want to wear. And there are certainly places in this world that are not that at all too. But what's exciting is those places, as large and in charge they may seem, they're actually kind of dissolving if you think about how much opportunity more and more people are starting to travel and do these different things too.
The accessibility of travel is incredible.
Like 80 years ago, Europe was in a war with each other, and now they're like popping bottles and growing wine, having a great time.
Exactly.
It's like to think that they would go back to that, it wouldn't. So that's like a bigger scope thing. But I think, like, you know, what scares me, I think, as an individual, is the unknown. Is sometimes feeling like social media makes me feel angry or makes me feel resentful, and I want to express it, but I can't, because I don't want to. I don't want to put myself out there like that, you know. But I can't help it, and I realize that if I didn't have that in my life, if I wasn't on these sites, that they necessarily wouldn't be experiencing it like that. But maybe I would. Maybe I would be more reactionary. Maybe social media is teaching me to have that withstand, you know, because otherwise I would be just popping my top. So I don't know, but that's my individual self. Like, I love people that express themselves. I think that's important for every human to do.
Totally.
My personal version of expressing it is to almost remain silent and focus my energy on creative outputs that.
Nice.
You know, I don't know. I don't want to say the words like that express what I want to say to the world, because, you know, what does that mean? Like, that's an easy thing to say, I think.
No, but I think it's way more valuable sometimes than like spending 3 hours like watching a comment feed on a Facebook thread. Dude, you're like waiting. You're like waiting for the person to just write back so you can get up. You know,
I have seen things. We all have seen things. I know, it's so intense. I know. Gosh, sometimes I've stumbled on comment feeds that I don't even know how I got in that subject, you know, or whatever, and I'm sitting here reading these things like, oh my, wow, you know, and I'm like, no, Chris, no.
You know what I
used to go on rants.
I've been thinking about, right, because I've been seeing my brother a lot lately, and he's a fantastic, very opinionated person, you know.
Cool.
But what we've been talking a lot about is this idea of like, you know, there's all these hot button topics, you know, especially when it comes to social media, and you can spend a lot of time getting really mad about that stuff that like is gonna start fires. Or there's the other option, which is everybody, even my brother, who loves to start a fire. There is something inside of him that can be framed or perceived very positively, and you know, I would love to see the future of this, like these conversations, whether they are like socio-political or like music threads or whatever, where it's just like less anger-driven stuff and just people trying to find I don't know, positivities in sometimes that they're in their controversial
or
beliefs,
even just being exposed to the other side.
Yeah.
I mean, so much
in a place of compassion.
And so much information that we're getting now is like based on who we're friends with and where we live, and
it's true. There's like algorithms behind it, right?
So it's interesting for us to accept the fact that these things, there might be another side to the story, and to be able to see that other side with compassion and have just a discussion.
Discussion. Find a way to. I mean, no one ever wants to be like attacked when they're trying to be convinced. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're trying to like get a message across, the last thing you should do is like attack.
Yeah, it's true.
So maybe I don't know. Trying to. Yeah, there's a lot of people attacking nowadays.
There are on both sides. You know, if there are such thing as sides, and it's I always think of the Buddha. There's this book called the Dhammapada, and it's 2,000 sayings of the Buddha. Right. And the opening line is basically, or the opening few lines, basically say, sorry if I don't quote Buddha accurately, but he basically said, hate never begot hate. Only love conquers hate. That is the only law. Like he's like, not anywhere in a million years or anywhere in the universe has hate ever been able to expel hate. It's only fed itself because it's ultimately the same thing.
Yeah, totally.
And it's interesting to go a little further with that, as I won't when I finish this, but like, and then the opposite, them saying that only love and it can dissolve that hate, and it'll always do it every time. You know, that's the way the universe works. And so what I wanted to say is that it's interesting on like a physical level. And the human body, when you look at hormones, you look at the pH balance, you look at all these different things. When someone's experiencing the emotions of anger, resentment, jealousy, or hatred, their physical body is producing these hormones and these things that are actually not healthy for the human being.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like you can't be angry. I'm not saying don't be angry. I'm saying that like
cortisol,
when you are angry, your cortisol levels are raised and then they crash.
Yeah.
Your pH is different. Your acidity levels are changed. Yeah. And these deteriorate your physical cells.
Yeah.
And so my personal opinion is that when I personally experience them, I want to see them, acknowledge them, not repress them or say, oh, you're not there. I'm not feeling jealousy. Yeah. I'm saying, oh, wow, I'm experiencing jealousy. Okay, all right, let's see this, where it goes. Why do I feel this? Oh, okay, here's why I feel it. Well, that makes you feel really good, actually. Thanks, jealousy. Pat you on the liver. That's where it stores. Nice. And move on. And because if you give it love and you give it acknowledgement, it'll lose its power. And when the human is in the place of love, kind of what that translates to is more like when the person's calm, relaxed, just kind of having a good time in life in general. You're healthier. Your body's more productive. You're more creative. You're more alert.
Yeah.
And in theory, you can live longer.
Yeah. I think maybe that's why you were able to be in 4 bands and work a job. No, but see, okay, so I love this.
Meditation.
I think it's important. So this show is loosely centered around like hacks that artists have. Because we're a creative bunch, cool. And we also usually it's hard for us all to make steady cash to keep the art moving. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's something I think we're all navigating to try and figure out the best way to do it. And so I think if there's hacks that you have that I think people need to know is how do they stay stress free, and how do they, because as an artist, if you have lots of anxiety and you're worried about shit and I mean, which is going to happen in Los Angeles,
100%.
But how do you mitigate those things so that you can spend more time writing and being clear headed? Because I know I don't get a lot of done when I'm worrying.
Thank you for asking me, Eric. I'm really honored that I would be asked that. I'm going to be honest. Yes, I do feel that I have discovered tools that have helped me spiritually, physically, emotionally. And sometimes I came up with them on my own, but only because I was exposed myself to certain things in the external world that I was able to kind of sit on and integrate and utilize. And
trial and error.
And then I kind of come up with my own little things, as any artist or any human kind of generally does. Yeah. But so on a physical level, Matthew knows about this one. It's sitting right over here. Ashwagandha. Yeah, show this to the camera. So I'll quickly explain ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is this an Ayurvedic herb. It's found in India, and what it helps to do is it helps to balance out the cortisol levels in the body. Mm-hmm. And what this does is cortisol. It makes you cortisol is good for you, but it's too much not good, not enough not good. You got a balance of it.
And the spikes, right?
Yeah, you don't want spikes of cortisol. You want just chill cortisol.
Nice.
I don't know what that means. But anyway, so ashwagandha is an herb, and usually they use the root of this. They have it powder form. They have it in tablets, at grocery stores. And ashwagandha basically balances out those cortisol levels. So what that translates to is that it helps you adapt to stress. As an example, if something external from you, stimulates you to be stressful, you're less reactionary, more responsive to it.
Nice.
You're less I always like to give the example of a doctor in the ER. When you walk in there with your your whatever open and blood flying everywhere, do you want your doctor to be reactionary, which is like, oh my God, there's blood everywhere, oh God, what do we do?
Yeah, exactly.
Someone get a Band-Aid. And then, or do you want your doctor to be responsive, where he walks in, he's super chilled out, he's like, oh yeah, give me this, boom, 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 bang, bang, and he's dancing while he's doing it, and he wraps your arm up and you're out of there with a lollipop in your hand,
Nice.
So you want the response. And so ashwagandha helps with that. Also in nature, if ashwagandha grows next to, and this is kind of how they found it, if ashwagandha grows next to a tree, and they say there's the same type of tree a few yards over that doesn't have the ashwagandha growing near it, so they both get the same stress patterns from the environment, weather, snow, whatever. The tree with the ashwagandha on it will actually live longer and be healthier than the one without.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of how they figured it or found it. So that's on a physical level. There's definitely a lot of others I could touch on, but that's the main one, especially because it was right there on.
well, we've got time. Give us two more.
Definitely.
I mean, if you've got two more.
I
want to know.
Two more, I would say. There's spiritual, and then there's emotional, and I think those are both tied in. And I'll jump to those. Or should I do two more natural supplements?
Yeah.
Two more natural supplements? Because Chris wants to get spiritual too quickly. I'm like, let's get spiritual.
We got 20 more minutes now.
Oh, great. Perfect.
Yeah.
Another supplement I would recommend is called pycnogenol.
Nice.
Pycnogenol. Pycnogenol is basically bark of a French pine tree, and it's what they used to build all the old ships out of. And if you think about what type of wood can sit in the ocean and travel that thing like no one's business, that's got to be some strong stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because it was or is. And basically what pycnogenol is, it's one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. So it helps to your body to battle to be strong against free radicals that deplete your body's photons. I could get into that later. It also is an anti-inflammatory, a very powerful one. It cleanses your liver. And subsequently, the studies that have been done on it improves your eyesight, improves skin elasticity. Let's see, what else does it do? It grows muscle mass. They had these elderly laying in a bed, and they pumped them full of pycnogenol, and they noticed their muscles getting a little bigger over the course of time.
Nice.
And I mean, there's so many more of these things I could talk about. And there's one more attribute to it: anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and then it's I forget the other one, but it's awesome.
Yeah, nice. That's great.
The only thing you need to know about pycnogenol is that if you take it, it can cause a little bit of acne. Just know that, but otherwise it's not going to crazy breakout. But if you do this thing consistently and a lot of it, which if you may need to do, or if you feel it, you just know you might get some zits. That's the one weird thing about it. I can't really say why.
Maybe it just makes your skin oil more robust or something.
Maybe my opinion is maybe it's just something to do with the liver. The liver balancing itself out might stimulate some toxins to get removed, and they pop out through your skin.
Yeah.
So maybe I don't know. I can't really answer it, but
yeah.
So that's pycnogenol, and then one more. Let's see.
What was the stuff that we had at Tom's house? It was like a white
nootropics.
Is that what it was?
Well, L-theanine.
It kind of had like a citrusy flavor or something like that.
But it was white and kind of powdery.
Vitamin C.
No, I don't think so.
By the way, all these ones I'm listing, you totally guys should get into.
Vitamin C, man.
Vitamin C.
Yeah.
Vitamin C is amazing. So nootropics, I thought nootropics
kind of
was
cool
that was like a subcategory of different things. But
it is. It's its own category, I would say, of supplements. It's sort of like these. Dare I use the words and. Pardon me, FDA, if you hear this and you get upset with me for saying it, I don't know what else to call them. Smart drugs. They're basically old school style smart drugs. Now they're kind of listed as supplements. Right, and rightfully so. They should be. I wouldn't really call them drugs, although some of them are definitely more powerful than others. But nootropics are an interesting set of class because basically what nootropics are these these supplements that are usually synthetic, but they enhance your brain power to be more cognitive, to be more able to retain information.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can be geared towards anxiety, where they kind of calm down anxiety and they make your brain a little bit clearer.
Yeah.
Depending on which ones do what. You do need to be mindful about nootropics because sometimes some of them will deplete your body's choline, which is a necessary element you get from foods that you need. If you don't have choline, you get really depressed. So there's a few of them. There's like, I'll kind of let people research them. No, but definitely, if you get into nootropics, I recommend it. They're awesome. But be mindful about it, especially follow how much you should take and make sure you look to see if it depletes choline, in which case get some choline supplements. Nootropics.
Nice. And so what? It's just kind of like natural, healthy Adderall or something? Just kind of like sharpens you up?
I don't know. I think Adderall has its place. I definitely do. I think nootropics for me are... I don't know. One time I did one before show. I did what's called paracetam, where it enhances both hemispheres of your brain. Yeah, paracetam. Yeah. And so it enhances the information going between your left and right hemisphere.
Which would be great for musicians.
It's great for musicians. But I will say, one time I took a ton of it before a show, and while I was playing keyboard, I was like, whoa, because I started to like see the electricity pulsing through the notes I was playing into the synthesizer and going into my cables. And I was like, oh, I see everything. Oh my God. It was crazy. I was like, and I actually got distracted. I was like, I actually had to focus. I'm like, well, I need to focus on my music. And usually I don't like to do anything before a live show because I want to be as like open and as present as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Well, that, and if I were to mess something up, if I'd had like a number of beers and I messed something up and there's like some major executive there and I messed up for beers, I'd be so bummed at myself.
Never forgive yourself.
Never forgive myself. But like, but at the same time, if people need a drink before they rock out, hey man, it's all good. We each their own. But to me, I'm always like that. So with the paracetam, I was like, oh shit. Yeah. This is going crazy. Music is nuts. Music is nuts. I see the cosmos. That took a lot. Because, Tom would just like bring some over like, hey man, you want some? I'm like, duh.
Tom's so great. Like he's just like, he's not into hard drugs. It's not like, hey, you want to try some of this acid, bro?
You want some nootropics?
It's like, hey, you want some smart drugs?
No, it's totally true. So Tom is the bassist of Draemings, one of my closest friends.
Yeah,
definitely.
He's great.
He's awesome.
Also a genius.
Super genius. Electrical engineer, like brilliant-minded man. A wonderful fiance. She's
great
also an
hats.
incredible woman. But yeah, Tom is like...
He cooks too.
He's a great cook. Woo, boy.
Yeah.
No. So it's really funny when Draemings tours because our biggest fear is not that we're going to get pulled over and like we're going to get busted for drugs. Our biggest fear is that we're going to get pulled over and we're going to get our supplements mistaken for drugs. Because they put these white powders and we're like, how do you tell a cop that's pulled you over that's holding up a bag of white powder that is actually this stuff called L-theanine? It's from green tea and it's for anxiety. And he's like, oh, sure.
That's what I think we have at Tom's house too.
L-theanine's awesome.
Yeah, I can definitely deal with all that. So are these supplements expensive? Like what if I was trying to get those three things? How much would I be looking at spending?
Glad you asked. So we talked
and where would you buy them?
Pycnogenol. We talked about what was the
bark
first one?
Stuff.
Pycnogenol, pine bark. What was the first one?
And then the first one was ashwagandha.
Ashwagandha. Okay, so ashwagandha is generally about $20 for a month's supply.
Okay.
So that one's pretty accessible. Pycnogenol tends to be a little bit pricier. There's two types of pycnogenol you should know about. There's Chinese and then there's French.
Okay.
Unfortunately, none of the studies are done under the Chinese one. They always use the French one.
Yeah.
And the French one is way more expensive than the Chinese pine bark, like hands down.
Yeah.
But that's the only one I'm familiar with the studies, and so that's the one I recommend. But with that said, it's usually about $70 a bottle for a month supply.
Okay.
But you don't need to take pycnogenol all the time. It's mostly just if you just want to like help your body cleanse and just get a little bit more protection. It definitely can help.
Yeah, I drink 2 or 3 beers a night, and every night pretty much I could use some liver.
Some immune support. Yeah. So liver. So that would be definitely pycnogenol.
Yeah. Like preventative maintenance.
Yeah.
Like, I know I'm going to do it anyways.
Yeah, definitely. It helps with that, Another one, the nootropics, they all range in price. Typically, they're about $15 to $30, $30, depending on what you're getting.
So for $120, you're rocking a really healthy brain and body.
Yes,
I'm
a huge believer in supplements, but I think just to quickly talk about this, if there's any people that don't feel supplements are good, here's my opinion on that because I'm not going to be like, no, that's false. I will say that's true. There are
and a lot of this stuff is new too,
yeah.
right? So there's not a lot of long-term studies on it yet.
That is, basically, when people take supplements, they're thinking about the vitamins when they were a kid, and they would, get a little nauseous afterwards. And yeah, supplements can do that if you eat it on an empty stomach or you do too much and your body's not used to it. A lot of times when you take supplements, and I guess what I should say too is that the supplements I'm referring to out of this entire podcast have to do with like not the typical kind you get at a grocery store.
Yeah.
These are ones you can find online. You can find them at doctor's offices. You can find them
like the good shit.
The good stuff. You can find them at like Whole Foods, or like Lawson's, if I'm allowed to plug those places.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can find them there, but like Kroger, Rite Aid, CVS, no. Those supplements are very, very low quality, and you might as well just spend the same exact amount of money just ordering it from Amazon at the very least.
Yeah.
But
I love Amazon.
So I will say, the bigger the brand, the more common the brand is, usually the lesser quality the ingredients are going to have, because they have to have massive distribution. So they're putting fillers in their product. And those have all been studied, by the way. I'm not going to get into it because I don't want to throw shade on any companies, but that's a good thing to know when you're shopping for supplements, is you want to look for companies that seem to have integrity, that aren't as really that they're well known. And look online, look at reviews. Bring in your phone, pop it up. But yeah, I'm a huge believer in supplements. I think that it definitely, in our world, our bodies are losing a lot of nutrients. Even the most healthiest of organic vegan diets still needs something, even your, big carnivore people, they need help too. It's just, that's just the way it is.
It's why not take the help?
Yeah, exactly. It's just a food. That was one thing. So my grandmother passed of cancer, and I really wanted to help her out, especially when I was working in the medical field, and I really wanted to like get her some tools that I was very, very familiar with. And the hardest part was trying to convince her that it's just a food. It's just like carrots ground up, put in a pill. Like it's all it is. I mean, and that was a challenge. And so I think it's also a way of looking at it too,
So okay, well, moving forward, what is it, spiritual?
Spiritual, I would say, and emotional, because those go hand in hand. Yeah. Really, the emotional for me, my experience has been secondary to the spiritual, meaning like when I do the spiritual work, the emotion comes consecutively in line.
Yeah.
And I guess what I mean by that is that when I focus on my spiritual practices, my emotional self tends to be more calm, more relaxed, and more conducive to be more responsive. Versus reactionary. Because I've definitely been reactionary in my life, and I don't. Sometimes I really don't enjoy that state. I don't enjoy what happened. It's like I feel tense and my ego gets all inflated, and I'm like rah, rah, rah.
I mean, it's usually never productive.
Yeah, hardly. I remember the doctor in the ER. Oh God, man.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like that's never good. So the spiritual practices, I mean, I could go on for a minute on this on its own podcast, but I will touch on it. So the biggest and foremost to me as an individual is the practice of meditation. I think that's where it starts. Yeah. And I'll be very specific what I mean by that, because meditation can mean a lot of different things. It can be transcendental or something like that. I think to me, meditation is the practice of sitting with yourself, observing your thoughts, and eventually get to the point where you're able to steer your thoughts. And sometimes you can even adopt, mental games with yourself to help yourself. What I mean by that is that there's these ancient meditation techniques in like Chinese medicine, or in what is called Qigong, which is another practice that I tend to really enjoy practicing or learning about. And it's basically like using your brain to focus on yourself and the different aspects of yourself, and to help them promote the healing of them, or to promote the better version of it, if you will. So if I'm feeling angry, I'm able to look at that anger and turn it into to appreciation. If I'm feeling jealousy, I can turn that into productivity. Nice. Or in self-knowledge. Yeah. If I'm feeling hate, obviously, I can turn that into love.
Yeah.
And so meditation is a good place to start with that. When I tell people about meditation, they're like, oh, I can't meditate, or I'm not good at it. And I'm like, hey, neither am I. I mean, I sit down and my brain, in the first 15 seconds, I've like explored the planet, like 50, blah, 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 it's all going all over. But if I do that for an hour, I come out of that and I'm like, oh, wow, low.
Firing on all cylinders.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I feel great.
Well, and I'm sure that especially anybody who feels uncomfortable about doing it, I love the concept of trying to do at least one thing a day that makes you feel uncomfortable in a productive, good, moving forward type of way.
Yeah.
Like you're challenging yourself, and man, I mean, I know it would be a challenge for me to just sit for an hour.
It's really hard to just sit there with yourself.
Yeah.
Is that how long you normally meditate?
No, well, I mean, that depends. I don't know if I have.
Maybe there's a little.
Because I hear a lot of people being like, I do an hour every day, and I'm like, that's great, man. Sometimes I'll do 10 minutes. Sometimes
I think
I'll
that's
do
what
20.
Transcendental Meditation recommends
hours.
is doing 2 10-minute sessions each day.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Yeah, I mean,
one in
that's
the
20
morning
minutes.
and
It's 20 minutes a day. That's great.
Yeah.
I will
Starting small too just makes it easier to keep yourself accountable. And
exactly, keeping it as basic as you possibly can. That like when I first started getting into meditation, I was studying like Chogyam Trungpa, a lot of Tibetan meditation teachers and spiritual leaders, and the general message that I got was them trying to tell people over and over again, there really isn't nothing to it. You just sit there with yourself, and that's kind of it. And there are some techniques you can do to help your body's energy, but like there's no special mantra you have to do. Mantras are actually just kind of decoration.
Yeah.
There's no special place you got to go with your astral traveling. It's basically just whatever happens, whatever decoration you want to throw in it. Like it's just that, it's that simple. And it's so challenging to do. And I think that's one of the most powerful things about it is that over the course of time, I noticed with myself, it helped me see how I was behaving in certain environments under certain circumstances. And then sometimes I'm not happy with that. Sometimes I'm like, dude, I'm really bumming myself out here. So then, and I like see people being bummed out at me and I don't want that. I want to be able to connect. And so I've slowly been able to guide that. Now I'm no way, shape or form a diamond on this yet. Like I've got a lot of rough edges and I'm, the polishing will continuing still to this day. Oh my gosh. But that's what meditation's given me. The years I've been practicing it, and so I think it's a wonderful start for everybody. I think as you move forward, if you find yourself transcendental meditation, I think that's wonderful. I personally really enjoy what's called the Wim Hof method, which is a breathing technique that you can do. That's really great. I also recommend, chakra meditations. Those are pretty cool. I have my own that I kind of came up with. It's not original, but it kind of is in the sense that I got an idea, this one chakra system idea from like southern India, and I'd already been studying Chinese medicine and already been studying the emotional centers of the body and the different colors that are associated with those. And I noticed that the chakra system aligned with the theory and the ideas of Chinese medicine, like they were the same.
Oh, wow.
But the only thing is the chakra system didn't talk about the emotions, whereas the Chinese medicine did. And so I was like, oh, well then why don't I, I'm in a place where I really want to start healing and I've, kind of gone through hard times. So I developed my own way of memorizing the Chinese medicine system while adopting that chakra system as well. Yeah. And so, I don't think these things happen overnight, but I can honestly say that I've been practicing that for a little over a year now, and I feel more beyond where I was. I would say evolved, but is that the right way? I don't know. More integrated, maybe, is probably a best way of saying it. More integrated in myself than I was.
That's a great way of saying it.
Prior to doing that.
Yeah, I mean, having all kinds of shit going wild in your brain all the time, it just disassociates you from you. Yeah. You're more caught up in the every little thing you have to do than you. So it's crazy when you stop. You get to a point where you stop listening to yourself. You just start listening to the chores you have to do.
Yeah, that's true.
You had mentioned earlier that like some emotions are they're related to different parts of your body, right?
Yeah,
and so when you're meditating, are you like focusing on like if you're stressed out and does your liver like produce cortisol?
Yes, it does. So
you would like focus on your liver while you're meditating?
Yes. That specific type of meditation comes from a gentleman named Montauk Chia. He's a Qigong master / teacher based out of Thailand. He's from China originally. I love all of his material. Actually, the listeners might know him, and they may not have known it. if anyone's ever read a book, and pardon me, ladies, I'm not trying to be that guy that's being recorded, being like, yeah, this book, but like it's literally a book a lot of men know of. It's called The Multi-Orgasmic Man. Have you ever heard that before?
No. That's great.
Oh my God, I'm that guy now. He wrote a book. It's very popular. I've seen it at a lot of friends' houses. I'm like, oh, they're reading Montauk Chia. Like it's great, you know. But it really what that book is about is just exploring the man being able to explore his sexuality and being a better partner for women and all this. It's really great. It's a great book.
It's a good read.
But
you have to let me borrow it.
Yeah. Wow.
I want to be better lovers, you know?
Yeah. That's never, we're never the best. We always have room to grow.
Yeah.
You know, the emperors back in ancient China and would just have 1,000 concubines, and they would like just everyone, they would have to work on because they would have to impregnate as many as possible. And so there was a lot of techniques that came out of that, and they talk about a lot of stuff. There's a lot of philosophies behind it, for longevity and, making sure that the woman is appreciated. But anyway, I'm going through the whole thing here.
Man, times have changed.
But back to the liver, I think that's the most important message is that his meditation technique where you look at your organs as you're meditating them. And you look at what negative emotions are associated with those. Like for liver, it's anger and jealousy as the two major ones. There's a bunch of others, but those are the two major ones. And the reason being is that when you're experiencing jealousy, your liver produces a bright green bile that leaks into your stomach and makes you feel a lot of anxiety and a lot of tension in your chest. Mm-hmm. When you're angry, your body's doing the same thing. And it's your liver becomes, the pH is balanced differently. So that's where they know it's from, and the cortisol levels as well, especially the cortisol. So heart is actually my favorite example are the kidneys. This is the best example of this whole type of meditation, in the power of it. If you're experiencing fear, you meditate on your kidneys. You imagine the color blue. You put your hands over them, and you look at fear. You look at what's causing that fear. And you then put in courage and self-knowledge and standing up to that fear and seeing fear for just an experience, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason why you do that is because on a physical level, and this is why I love this meditation, on a physical level, you have adrenal glands that sit on top of your kidneys, right? So anytime you're experiencing fear, your adrenal glands are pumping adrenaline into your kidneys, weakening the kidney walls and putting all that cortisol in your body. And that's where those adrenal glands are. Mm-hmm. And that one concept is the whole framework for that entire ideology of your emotions being stored on a physical level in your organs. Yeah, your heart.
That's incredible.
It's incredible.
And then also you can treat those organs with certain supplements, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Different herbs, different things like that, which come in the form of supplements. Ashwagandha.
That's awesome.
It's incredible. It's so powerful. And it's interesting too because that chakra system lines up with that. Like, so the color blue is your kidneys. Well, their whole root chakra is black, but the next one up is the color blue. I think it's the sacral. I really don't know the names for all the different chakras. Oh boy. But the blue one is where your kidneys are, and that's fear. So you want to replace that with courage. Another interesting one is the color yellow. The color yellow is your stomach. It's also your throat too. The reason being is that your thyroid produces yellow enzymes that essentially feed your pituitary gland or something like that. And then in your stomach, your intestinal walls they're beige. They're colored yellow, right? If that's flesh looking. But also what emotions store in there is anxiety. Oh, mother anxiety.
Yeah, you can feel that.
Yeah, and
right in your tummy.
Yeah, because so what happens with anxiety is that you're something about your stomach acids being off, and it creates anxiety through your entire chest, and it causes your shoulders to sink in, and you literally you scrunch in when you're experiencing anxiety. And so the counter emotion to that is calmness, is acceptance, and again self-knowledge, whatever that might mean, and love. You're always putting love and joy in these things, in these areas too. But you want to focus on specifically what is the counter emotion to whatever negative emotion that you're feeling. And you can look it up online. Sometimes I just felt like just trusting my gut. Like, what's the opposite of jealousy? Acceptance. All right, great. Let's focus on that. You know? So those are the meditation techniques that, in a nutshell, that I personally feel are really great. They're kind of like watching a TV show with your brain, except you feel like you're doing something, Yeah. And eventually you start to feel better. You really genuinely do. So
it's beautiful. I mean, what that all really comes back to too is just like setting aside time for yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
To just talk to yourself and focus and care for yourself and things like that. You know, I mean, every friend I have in the city is the same in that sense. So we're all just like freaking ourselves out with our work
it's a wild world.
loads and just our thought process and the amount of people not down regulating every day, where they just stay like they're getting chased by a cheetah all day.
Since we are, I mean, geez.
Yeah, it's intense.
Our brain power's off the chart, you know.
So what else do you do to maintain that spiritual, emotional balance?
I guess the next jump would be the physical one, which is qigong.
Nice.
Qigong, for those that may not know it, is basically Tai Chi, and if you're not familiar with what that is, it's basically like if you've ever been by a park and seen like a group of people kind of moving slowly in motion. They look like they're all doing the same thing. That's basically Tai Chi. And Tai Chi comes from an older category, if you will, called Qigong. And it's a little bit, I haven't practiced Tai Chi enough to really know the true difference. But I think that Qigong you use a little bit more of visualizing with your mind versus Tai Chi is more just like you focus on the physical. And Qigong is the combination of both of that.
Okay, cool.
So with Qigong, as an easy example, you might have heard these things called Qi balls, where you clap your hands, you rub them together, and then you cup them and you relax your fingers and you move your hands back and forth. And I'm feeling it now. You'll start to feel this like energy magnet in the tips and palms of your finger. And the closer you get to it, the more condensed it gets, the more outward you get, the less it gets, but then you can also kind of build it, and so you're using your mind to visualize that ball, but you feel it too. It's quite fascinating. And whether it's real or not, placebo, I can't answer that question, but I can say that it always helps me focus and use my mind to like stop worrying about who said what at my restaurant and how it made me feel and come more into like, here I am doing this practice that so many thousands of humans, men and women, have done for centuries in this world. And honestly, if you really want to see the effects of Qigong, this is fascinating. Go on YouTube and search Qigong masters and see what they can do. It's pretty wild. I mean, we're talking like, people may not believe this. You got to see this. You're talking about like 16 people trying to attack the master, and the master barely touching them, and they fly from him like, and they laugh sometimes. They're like, "Whoa, that was crazy!" Like, whoa, their bodies are like shaking, and they're like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa!" And the Qigong master just sitting there like, "Yeah, what do you got? What do you got?" And this is something both men and women can do. They teach this in China to children. And it's so powerful. When I first came across that, I was like, I wasn't like, oh, that's what they're doing. I was thinking that's what the human body's capable of. Yeah. Think about that.
They're harnessing their power.
Yeah, you're harnessing your inner, what I might call electromagnetic energy, or what Western would call, maybe, I don't know. I really don't. I mean, they have very specific what chi is. It's hard, I think, to translate that into the Western language. And what I mean is I really still don't understand. It's like I do, but I'm also like, I don't know, it's like the universe, it's everything.
Us Westerners, energy. We want our definitions.
Very clear. Very clear. Yeah, it's true. I'm texting, goddammit, I want what I want when I want it.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I think we're kind of getting here to the end of the hour. Yeah. So I want to ask one more question.
Yes,
I think that stuff's all awesome because I feel like there are so many musicians and artists and just people in general, Los Angeles especially, but everywhere now, because everything is getting more and more competition, and it's harder to get good jobs, and shit is going up in price, and people are getting paid less. I mean, it's just there's all kinds of things happening, and so for the more specific idea of these artist friends that we have, and them mitigating their stresses and anxieties about moving forward. Being in a great band like you are, especially being in a few great bands like you are, and being able to work with other great artists who have found success in many levels, but you also, in a great sense, still being on an artist that you guys are on like a wonderful up right now. Is there any kind of just like, I don't know, anxieties you had a few years ago, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, where you look now and you're like, damn, why was I stressing about that? Like, is there anything that just blows you away about
There's two things came to my mind right when you said that, and so I feel like I should share them whether I would like to or not. The first one I'll say, because I want to say the second one is a little easier to say, and that was like live shows, where you like, when I would play live shows, you just get really nervous before a live show and just like so just hyped up about it, hyper, and kind of more reactionary if things went wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, God, things I've done on stage, I can't even believe it. But when I experience those nowadays, I don't really get nervous anymore, but I feel energy. I feel like energized.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I do not feel anxious.
Yeah.
I feel very honed in. I feel hyper aware. You know, it's interesting. That's
especially when things go wrong.
Yeah. And the first thing that came to my mind when you said that was like, I guess the big question that, you know, I hope no one else asks themselves, but I suspect maybe they might, is like, am I wasting my time doing this? You know, because if I haven't seen the type of success that I've seen my friends get, and quite wildly and lovely and how wonderfully, then, and I've been doing this for all this time, like, why am I still doing this? There's so much else I could be doing. And now how I feel about that is like, let's say tomorrow, hypothetically speaking, I can't play music or whatever circumstance. Would I think I've wasted my time for one day? And the answer to that is no.
Yeah.
Because of the relationships alone that I've been able to have, the friends I've made, the experiences I've gotten to get, the things that I've been able to express, the love I've received. You know, sometimes I'm like floored about what people, you know, come up to me, total strangers, being like, you know, whatever they have to say, it's just so powerful. It could be like, man, you were terrible, or man, that was incredible. You know, like,
yeah.
I don't get that first one too much, but sometimes I'm like, well, someone please tell me that I did that terribly because that was bad. Like, come on, be real with me. No, but yeah. So I think that if you have a love and a passion, just follow it. If your heart's saying to do it, I don't care what it takes. Do it. Even if you don't wind up that multimillionaire that you think you are going to get. If you doing that experience probably set you in a path to where you might achieve that in a different area anyway, based on the side track, quote unquote, that you think you've done. Because really it's just one straight path and it constantly keeps going. And the world around you keeps growing and growing and growing. And if you know that, like you just focus and just make it happen.
Yeah, and love what you're doing.
I love what you're doing. Yeah. And, you know, I will say, too, like, if you find moments where you don't love what you're doing, that's all right.
Yeah.
Totally fine. Yeah. But just, like, I don't know, stick with it. Like, let it kick your ass.
Nice.
You know? Like, because when you get your ass kicked, what happens? You pick yourself up and you're stronger and smarter than you were before. You know?
Exactly. Yeah, I also think it's really important to, like, fall in love with the process, too, instead of, like, thinking that you have to attain these certain goals, like monetary goals or whatever they may be. And just do what you love.
Do what you love.
I think it's important too. Like, what's great about that, especially applied to people like artists. I mean, you're also being really humble and living a life where I'm sure you make a lot out of a little. You know, and just being able to not work a job where you're completely tied up in work for the next 40 years. Like your entire life is going to be fun in one way, shape, or another. You know what I'm saying? Like you're always going to be around awesome, artsy, wonderful, smart people, just like you were when you were in the circus, like in a whole nother life. Yeah. And then now you're in this life, but the people are just as rich. Totally. And it's like if you move into another new life, it's going to be the same way. Yeah. I you know, and so I love that. You took a chance on yourself. You are continuing to take a chance on yourself and your art, and because of that, you're being rewarded with the true best parts of life.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you know,
and I feel like I'm just getting started.
I feel like
for real though. Yeah. 2018 is like this is the year it begins. That's how else to say it.
I'm feeling it.
Yeah,
I feel it too.
In so many of my friends' lives, like so many people I know, it's like we've all been working so hard at whatever it is doing. Even the ones that are very successful, like everyone's about to take like a level up. Yeah, you know, and it seems like this energy. And I know the external world's crazy. Of course it is. But like on our personal level, it seems like everybody's kind of kicking a little bit of ass.
I think it's important though too that especially if anyone listening to this who is just perturbed by the weirdness of the world right now and kind of how grotesque things seem and stuff like that. Like these moments where we're realizing that all the wonderful people in our lives are now getting these moments of the superpower, the turbojet's about to kick on, you know? And so what I see is a whole bunch of wonderful, even-minded, smart, sensitive humans that are super talented about to get a shot. Yeah. And also it's like, if you're pissed about things, or you don't think that they're working right or whatever, well, fucking get your ideas together. Talk to your friends about them. Stop being so emotional and just get it together.
Yeah.
You know, because shit is about to change and to change fast.
Yeah, it is.
And when all of us have a chance to share that message that we have hopefully honed very, very, very uniquely and straight to the point, like it's going to happen, and it's going to happen here sooner than we think. And so if we want to change shit, then we got to get it together now. Start thinking about it now.
And as a compliment to what you just said, to the word shit, it is true in nature that all shit, everywhere, anywhere, from any animal or anything, is fertilizer for growth.
Nice. Exactly. Yeah, so let that shit
Let that shit sink.
Yeah. What a great hour it's been with you, Chris.
Yeah, for real. You two guys and everyone out there that's listening, thank you for listening. It really means a lot if you made it this far, which I'm sure you might.
Well, I think if they made it this far, they got a bunch of juicy tips about how to keep their fucking
There's
brains
so much
sharp.
more.
Yeah,
we'll have to have you
Bring
back.
me back. Part
also,
2.
yeah, where can they find you? Like, do you have like a Facebook or anything like that?
I do. I'm Christopher Vick on Facebook, and on Instagram, I am at Christopher Vick. All one word. Yeah.
Well, yeah. If you guys are curious about any of those supplements that he thinks are awesome,
message me. Information's free.
Exactly. Awesome. I love that.
Information's free.
Well, time to maybe have a cold brewsk and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Have a wonderful
Thanks,
night, everybody.
I love you guys.
Love you guys.